Sean was counting the minutes until the end of his shift at the record store. Rock stars shouldn't have to live like this. After all, he deserved to be famous. Damn it. Hi, I'm Neil A. Yeager, and today I'm reading from my novel, Non-Hollywood. If you look at this video's description text, you can see where to find other books by me, including Political Music Club, which is a novel about musicians writing modern protest songs. But back to Non-Hollywood. This is chapter 29, The $10,000 Movie Prop. Despite downing aspirin all day, his bruised face still hurt like hell from his ill-advised sparring session with the hot young star. But maybe there was a song in there somewhere. Something about battling vampires? It would need a goth feel to it. He could hear it. Slow, churning guitars. And big church organs. And oh yes, he would sing it 2 octaves lower than he usually sang. Vampires from hell! And it would be great. Or maybe not. Sean gave up on the goth vampire song and was just contemplating going home and dunking his entire face in ice water when a man, who appeared to be in his late 60s, entered the store and walked up to the counter. The man had white hair and a white beard. He was skinny, scruffy, and rough-looking, giving the appearance of someone who had lived a hard life. "Hi, Mike," said Sean. "Come to check out some classics? Led Zeppelin's half off today." "Screw the classics. I came to see if you wanted to go get a drink." "And good God, son, what happened to your face?" Sean said, "You know, a drink sounds great. I'll fill you in at the bar. First, let me slip out of here before I have to listen to Jose recite the rules of Fight Club again." "So, it was a fight, was it?" "I'll tell you at the bar. Let's get out of here." Sean grabbed his guitar, and as he walked toward the door, he shouted over his shoulder, "Jose, I'm out of here." Jose popped out of the back room. "Hold on, where do you think you—" "Oh, I see. It's the produced screenwriter. You're leaving early so you can, what, go discuss some big movie project in a bar somewhere?" It was Mike who responded with, "Actually, we're going to a bar to get drunk. That's what bars are for. It's not a networking session, it's a drink till you can't feel your face anymore session. Sean, you know that if you keep slacking off, Art's gonna fire your ass. Goodbye, Jose. If you get fired, who's gonna cover for me on Friday? Goodbye, Jose." As they walked out the door, Mike asked, "And what was that about Friday?" "Oh, Jose's a waiter, you know, weddings and bar mitzvahs and stuff, and he's got some gig on Friday, some party in the Hollywood Hills. Forget him. Let's go." Several hours and several beers later, Sean and Mike stumbled out of the bar and toward Mike's beaten-up van. Mike said, "Great thing about a van, if you've had too many to drive, then you don't have to. Well, if you've got a van, you've always got a home." Mike opened the side door of the van, and the 2 men poured themselves inside. They each grabbed one of the tattered blankets and lay down in the back of the van. Sean grabbed his Squier Strat and began strumming the guitar. In the darkened van, the strummed chords of the amplifierless guitar lent an almost spooky feel. Sean mumbled, "Okay, so that little androgynous vampire boy probably wasn't my way into the business." Mike laughed. "Well, considering that he smashed your face, I'd say that he's not likely to put effort into advancing your career, no." "Oh, he got lucky. I'll kick his ass next time we spar." "Oh, that'll make him really want to help your career." "Okay, you're probably right. He's probably not the contact I need. But sooner or later, I will meet that someone who will be my way into the business. I have to. That's the way it works. It's all in who you know, right?" Mike laughed again. "And so far, you know me." Sean replied, "Yeah, and that's a good step. You've written actual movies. You've done something, you know, real." "But I am not the one who can get you into the business. I have nothing to do with the business anymore, and I don't want anything to do with the business anymore." Sean said, "And that's cool for you, but I do. And it's all about being that one person who can get you in. I thought maybe I'd met him until he punched me in the face a bunch of times. Hey, at least you got $100 out of it." Sean raised an imaginary glass and said, "At least I got $100 out of it. And I am still going to kick his pale little ass at some point." Sean looked up at the ceiling of the van and sighed. "Someday, though. Someday, I've got to make it. I know I do. Or do I just sound crazy for wanting it?" "Crazy?" said Mike as he pulled himself up to a seated position and pointed forward. "You see that little plastic statue glued to my dashboard?" Sean sat up and looked toward the front of the van, where was glued a 3-inch tall plastic statue of a comical-looking fat guy. "Yeah," said Sean. "I bought that at a thrift store in 1972 for 50 cents. Now one night, about a year later, I got really high and I thought, I could have sworn actually, that the damn thing was talking to me. The 70s, right? Anyway, it was really wild, so I went to my typewriter and over the next couple of days I banged out this script about a little thrift store statue that possesses people." Sean said, "Cool. Inspiration wherever you find it, right?" That's not the point. I'm getting to the point," said Mike. "So the movie gets made, and we used that actual little guy there as the prop for the film." "Well, that's cool," said Sean. "Still not the point. After the movie was done, I glued that little statue to the dashboard of my van. And when that van wore out, I pried that little guy off the dash and stuck it to the dash of another van. And when that van wore out, I glued that little bastard to this van. So basically, it's this little 50-cent piece of crap, and I've had it for a long time." "And that's the point?" Sean asked. "That is not the point. You asked me if I thought that what you wanted was crazy. Now, there are these people who are real fans of those kind of 1970s low-budget movies that I used to write. There's this one guy who found out that I had that little prop from that little movie, that 50-cent piece of crap with decades of glue on his little feet, and this guy offered me $10,000 for it. Now that is what I consider crazy." Sean thought about this. "Yeah, okay, yeah, that's friggin' nuts. Damn straight it is." Sean thought for a moment, then said, "So why do you still have the thing?" "Pardon me? Why do you still have it? Why didn't you sell it to him?" "I don't know. Conscience, I guess. I just couldn't bring myself to sell a 50-cent statue for, well, hell, 10 grand would have been a big chunk of the budget for the movie it was in. And I'm going to take that much money for that ugly little bastard? Something about that just seemed wrong. That's the kind of behavior they send you to hell for." Sean looked at Mike in amazement. "Dude, now who's crazy? Turn down a profit of $9,999.50? I don't know a whole lot of people who do that. I don't even think the Dalai Buddhist dude would do that." "The Dalai Lama?" "Yeah, him. Right, him. He'd take the $10,000. I'm sure of it." "Nah. What would I do with 10 grand anyway? Making money was what ruined things for me. Ruined films for me. When I was just scraping by in the low-budget world, that's when I was happy. That's when I actually liked my life, but then came Hollywood. Money and Hollywood killed it for me." "They paid you a lot in Hollywood?" "They paid me a boatload. And here's the thing. During my Hollywood time, I wrote 6 scripts for 4 different producers. You know how many of those scripts were turned into movies? Not one. And yet I still got paid. Got paid a lot. And that's how Hollywood works. I couldn't take it. It drove me over the edge." Sean shook his head and said, "Maybe you should just stop talking right now, Mike, because the more you talk, the more insane you sound. You couldn't handle people paying you lots of money for nothing? And $10,000 for that little plastic guy. What else? Did you win the lottery and give the money to a family of poodles? You're nuts, my friend." "Well," said Mike, "maybe so, maybe so." Mike lay back down and looked at the ceiling. After a few moments of silence, he dropped off to sleep. Sean, on the other hand, was wide awake. His mind was whirling, as it often did, with thoughts of what was to be, what was, and what might be. Maybe the thing with the hot young star at the kickboxing studio wasn't as bad as it seemed. True, the trainer had pulled the two of them apart. True, after Sean had removed his boxing gloves, he had pulled the hot young star's hair. True, the trainer had then grabbed Sean by the shoulders, shoved him out the door, and told him that his gym contract was canceled and that Sean had better never show his face again. But still, Sean took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He didn't think that sleep would be coming anytime soon. Besides, he suddenly realized that he really needed to use the restroom. So he set the guitar aside, got out of the van, and stumbled back toward the bar. The bar door was locked. "Oh, right," he said to no one, as he remembered that he and Mike had been shuttled out of the door at closing time. But oh, he really needed to go. He stumbled into the alley behind the bar and proceeded to relieve himself against the wall. As he did so, Sean looked up and realized two things. One, he was not in an alley. Rather, he had rounded the wrong corner of the building and was, in fact, on the sidewalk of a street which saw plenty of traffic even at this late hour. Two, he was standing right next to a police car, in which two officers who had been sipping coffee were now staring directly at him. The thought momentarily crossed his mind to run, but he realized two more things. Three, he was right in the middle of a process which didn't like to be disrupted. Four, he was far too drunk to be able to outrun two sober police officers. The two policemen got out of the car. The officer nearest Sean said, "You do realize that there's a law against public urination?" Well, said Sean, actually I didn't realize that. Not that I'm trying to be a smartass or anything. I'm cooperating, dude. I'm just answering your question because no, I did not know that was a crime. Of course, now that I think about it, yeah, I could see that. But then again, I ain't hurting anybody, and maybe things that don't hurt anybody shouldn't be illegal? But, yeah. Okay, it's a crime. The officer asked, "Have you been drinking, sir?" "Plead the fifth, plead the fifth," Sean said with a laugh. The officers did not laugh along. "Oh," said Sean, tough crowd, tough crowd. Yes, officer, I have been drinking right here, as a matter of fact, but I have not, I repeat, not been driving. I came out of this establishment, came out to my car, well, actually my friend's car, to sleep it off. I have not driven, but then nature called and here we are." The officer said, "And did you realize that there is also a law against public intoxication?" "Okay, that one," said Sean. "Yeah, that one I kind of did know. But like I said, I'm not driving. So I just kind of think that, you know, that the not driving thing kind of cancels out the other things. I mean, don't you? I'll just go back to bed with my friend. I mean, not, you know, to bed with my friend. I mean, just to sleep it off. Over in my friend's car. Van, actually." "Well," said the police officer as he pulled handcuffs off of his belt, "it so happens that we also have a place where you can sleep it off." And without further ado, they showed Sean exactly where that place was.